There are a lot of tools that are available in GEDmatch. These tools allow you to make comparisons of two or more people and how they relate to each other and share DNA.
A genetic genealogy expert for accused murderer Bryan Kohberger claims she received a visit from the FBI after testifying in court for him. That has Kohberger's lawyers asking questions. Thanks for joining us here on Law and Crime. I'm Anjanette Levy. Gabriela Vargas is one of several experts in genetic genealogy that Bryan Kohberger's lawyers have hired to advise them. Kohberger's lawyers want to see the genetic genealogy information the FBI used to ID their client as a suspect. The state says it's a tip and they shouldn't have to turn it over. This is just a short portion of Vargas's testimony from about 2 weeks ago.
Those matches that are revealed are only matches that have been opted out.
Something in Vargas's testimony piqued the interest of the FBI after the prosecutors heard she may have been reneging on some of her testimony or a sworn declaration that she signed. Kohberger's lead attorney explained what happened from her vantage point.
Last night, she was visited by 2 FBI agents and interrogated about her testimony and the timing of her declaration. That, in our view, impacts Mr. Kohberger's due process rights and his rights to effective assistance of counsel.
Ann Taylor told Judge John Judge that she would file a motion regarding what happens to witnesses after they testify in court. Latah County Prosecutor Bill Thompson explained why he asked the FBI to investigate after hearing Vargas might be questioning some of her own testimony.
When we heard of that, I reached out to the investigators and said, can we find out what's going on? And the FBI indeed undertook an investigation. And preliminary reports are that Ms. Vargas claims that some of what was in her declaration, she inadvertently agreed to or signed without fully reading it. We're documenting that so we can expose it to Ms. Taylor.
Now Thompson has told the court he will not cross-examine the witnesses that Taylor called to testify about genetic genealogy. But there are questions about whether the FBI agents visiting Vargas was proper. I spoke with former FBI agent Tracy Walder about it.
Well, it's not something I typically hear about FBI agents going in and visiting a witness after that they have delivered testimony. However, I think a lot of that lies with perception, right? How Mrs. Vargas felt during that discussion. And I would hope that copious amounts of notes were being taken. And I would hope that the FBI has a very good reason. But the interesting thing that I see here is the FBI is not the dominant investigatory team in the Kohberger case. So I'm surprised that they were the ones that followed up with this, but it could be simply because she's in a different location and it's easier.
Bill Thompson said this was about information he received after the hearing, but prosecutors had reserved the right to cross-examine some of the witnesses at a later date. Now they say, as I mentioned, that they are not going to do so, which also struck Tracy Walder as odd.
Look, she is well respected in her field. Certainly she's testified at trials before, but if you have 2 agents showing up at your front door, I think anyone is going to have a defensive reaction to that, right? Because they're not there for good news typically. And so I do think it would have been much better had Ann Taylor had someone from the defense team accompanying her to a local FBI office for this interview to take place, because I think that just would have been much more comfortable all around versus someone basically surprising you in your home. And there's a reason that we do that, right? Is to catch people off of their guard. And so I think that might be some of the issue at play here. And I hate to go back to perception because it's so nebulous, but I think that's part of the problem.
FBI agents do not typically record interviews or wear body-worn cameras. It's not clear whether that happened in this case, or whether the agents simply took notes about the meeting with Vargas. The prosecution has filed information related to that under seal with the court, so the public cannot see it. Bryan Kohberger has pleaded not guilty to the murders of Maddie Mogen, Kaylee Gonsalves, Ethan Chapin, and Xana Kernodle last November. A trial date has not yet been set. Kohberger remains in the Latah County Jail, where he is held without bail. His attorneys are asking the court to dismiss the indictment charging him with murder. They also plan to ask the judge to strike the death penalty from the case. For Law and Crime, I'm Anjanette Levy.